why I liked The Life of a Showgirl. This is my album review after having watched the movie, especially, and seen kind of her side of the story, and also having listened to the album several times and kind of mm, heard more, a little bit more in detail what the album is about. And yeah, first for this review, I'm going to first be talking a little bit of the narrative of the album as I perceived it after having watched this movie and having gotten, I guess, some clarifications and thought about it a little bit. Then musically, how I like it, and then go on to the story more, let's say, deeply and kind of like more in detail rather than deeply and more song by song basis. And then my conclusions, kind of like a sum up of why I liked the Life of a Showgirl man in general. So yeah, first this narrative of the album, and the way she sells it is kind of this is a behind the scenes on what the life of a showgirl is like, and her experiences kind of like bringing them to the people, right? How, which is, I guess, difficult, right? To be the biggest pop star ever. It's, well, not sure if ever, but the biggest pop star probably currently right now, at least when it was the Eras tour, and still bringing that down to her fans and to maybe other people uh, who are just simply not the biggest pop stars ever, right? Kind of like bringing down those experiences and making them relatable, finding their relatability in that, in yeah, being that high up and translating it to the audience. I think she does a decent job at this. At first, I will say that it didn't feel like mega coherent, and that there are some songs, especially one in particular, that for me kind of like stray from this narrative a little bit. But I think after not just watching the film and hearing her explain the songs track by track, but more like, I guess, vibing with the album and also kind of like doing a little bit of this type of mental acrobatics and such, I feel like I kind of understand this album better, or like I guess I can relate more to her message, or I can at least put each piece that I felt didn't fit into the album and make it fit in a way that, in my opinion, kind of like makes sense that it's represented in this album, in the story that she wants to tell in this album. Then into one more thing about the narrative, I will say that, in my opinion, the songs that define the narrative, and if you want to take two tracks that go over, that kind of sum up the album, are the lead single Ophelia, the Fate of Ophelia, and the Life of a Showgirl, title track of the album. I will say that these two songs, they are two of my favorites of the album, I will say, and I will also say that I think they translate this message very well for like the message of the album. They sum it up, you could say. They sum up this kind of Ophelia track is kind of a love letter to someone who has, in this chaos of being a showgirl, been a little bit of a pillar for her, and the Life of a Showgirl is a little bit less love related, and it's more like kind of a explaining to someone who knows less. So in a sense, it's translating to the audience, but also translating to some other artist, for example, how the show business is like. I will say that this is kind of like the two columns of this narrative, I would say, of the album. And these two tracks are two examples of it, and I think, in my opinion, as I read the album, most of the tracks can be put into these two columns. They are either love songs or something like that, or they are in the midst of it all, or they are kind of like warnings or details about this kind of life behind the scenes, right? And musically, now let's go into that. What did I like about this album musically? I will say that the fact that it's a more poppy album, and that the production by Max Martin and Shellback is kind of more dialed in, is something that I liked. I didn't not like the TTPD, Tortured Poets Department, but I gotta say that for me it was not a memorable album. Why? Because I guess it's more like a collection. It's more like a poetry book, right? Rather than an album of music, for me. that's how I got it, and so I don't remember any particular songs from that album a lot. And for this one, I feel like it will age, for me at least, more, to be more memorable and to have like more moments where, or like the vibe itself of the album will be something that I get behind and that I can get the message into me, right? Versus TTPD, for example, which I can't feel like a message. It's by itself, and it's more like a collection of poems, like a poetry book, right? Which was fine, but for me it was not my particular taste, and I was waiting for something more like this, more like something you could say with a throwback to 1989. I will say that it also has like a throwback to Reputation, but for example, Reputation was kind of this pop album that had a strong narrative, right? It had this kind of I've been damaged and I come back, I rise like a phoenix. But in my opinion, the production in Reputation sucked, right? So while the message was strong, and in a sense people like that, and there are some fans that are like really heavy Reputation stands and such, in my opinion, like the production was actually bad, right? It was like not a good sound in many times, in many songs. This album, I don't think it's the case. I think in this album the songs are dialed in, and the songs are kind of like, they are strong, they are good songs sonically, right? They sound good. The way the lyrics, the way she sings the lyrics, and the way the musical instruments accompany the songs, the way there are some like details, like a couple of keychains in some songs, or for example this detail that Uni showed in her video, this kind of like little vocal detail that drops down. There are some decisions like this that I like. That I do like, and so I will say that it's something that I don't know, that I feel like I enjoy more. And this comment I stole from a Discord friend of mine, and he also said something like the fans are accustomed to, so the TTPD fans are accustomed to to this old songwriting. Sorry, the new fans are accustomed to these songwriting focused tracks where the production is completely forgotten. And in this album, she felt like the production is like dialed in. So I was like, that's actually right, and I like that about that, right? I agree. So yeah, that's I guess my review musically. I'm not a super knowledgeable person, so I can't go like, okay, this key change from this or this chord progression. I'm not going to go that deep into that because sadly I'm not knowledgeable enough. I'm not like Jaime Altozano, but it's something that it's like my opinion. Then onto the story, song by song. For example, Ophelia, the first song, going from first to the end. First song, Ophelia, this song about one of these songs that are like pillar of finding love and in this tumultuous world. Ophelia is kind of like probably one of these like this. I like the songwriting on the references to like Shakespeare and such, and in her movie she defines it as something like I wanted to make Shakespeare have a happy ending or something like that. So because she likes Shakespeare a lot, etc., she kept feeling inspired by it, but it also hurts her so much that she wanted to give them a happy ending. So she does that for the second time, like with Love Story, like throwback to Fearless, and does this again in this Ophelia song. So I liked all of these connections. I liked these throwbacks to her other past albums. I like the references to Ophelia and to this in the music video, for example, these different eras of how a showgirl is in the how a showgirl is throughout history, the recent history kind of like, but it was a cool track. I liked it. I think it's catchy, and yeah. Then Elizabeth Taylor, next track. I feel like this is one of those show business tracks as well. but a little bit combined with this love, with this kind of love song vibe, right? This She makes some parallels of her life with Elizabeth Taylor's life. She's like this Hollywood actress, but it also is kind of a little bit centered on this kind of like, it's like be my New York when Hollywood hates me, right? Be my NY when Hollywood hates me. I can't have fun if I can't have you. It is love song, but it is also like very much very much, I don't know. All my white diamonds and lovers are forever, etc. Right? It's very much inspired a little bit by this Elizabeth Taylor, but also parallel to her life. So it's kind of like this showgirl life in a sense. So in my opinion, it's like a track that ties both things together really well. Opalite. This is like sonically one of my favorites of the album, and probably it's like going to be one of the next singles if I had to guess. But I liked the playful lyrics. There are like some details, for example, that are, I don't know. There are like some throwbacks to old songs. Like I thought my house was haunted. This is a references to all the tracks like to Haunted or like The Archer and things like this. So I liked it, and her message, in her opinion, is something like within this world, kind of building your own gem. Opalite is like a man-made gem, and she kind of liked this idea of someone of like building your own gem and building your own happiness, right? That as a metaphor of building your own happiness. And it is this also in this world of like show business. So this one is more, it's I guess a little bit less directly lover focused, like directly focused towards some lover, but it is fitting the narrative in my opinion. And I sonically, it's also like a song that I really like. The tunes that it has, and the little tunes are right. Yeah, the melody and such is something that I like. So then the next track, Father Figure, I really like the playfulness of this one. This I made deals with the devil, but my dick's bigger, right? And interpolating George Michael and such. It's funny. I liked the playfulness of the song, and kind of this is to me it's a throwback a little bit to Blank Space, for example, or it's not necessarily throwback. I want to stop calling everything a throwback, because not everything is a reference or whatever, but it does have this feeling of like tapping into that same vibe that Blank Space had, right? Blank Space had this playfulness of like, okay, you guys see me as this crazy bitch or whatever, I'll play the role. This one, and the lyrics are a little bit ridiculous because of that. Same with this one, right? The lyrics are a little bit ridiculous, because she's kind of tapping into that character, right? And she's tapping into a character of like, of both. She's in the movie. She said that it is both something she is inspired by, like she is the figure sometimes, and she feels like she has been the protege in some other ways. So she relates to both sides of the story. And this one is like on that second pillar that I mentioned of like show business. This is kind of like more pure show business type thing, rather than being for a lover or like telling a love story. Eldest Daughter is kind of like where the narrative is like one of those songs, along with the next one, where the narrative starts to feel a little bit like different, right? This one is like, it's not necessarily a love song in the midst of this, and it's also not something directly related to show business. But this one does fit the narrative, because the first verse, for example, the everybody's so punk on the internet, everyone's unbothered till they're not, every joke's just trolling and memes, sad as it seems, apathy is hot. This kind of, I like this melody, by the way. I like this kind of verses and such. The playfulness of it is funny, and the references to, I guess, the current world and like current day topics do make it a little bit show businessy, right? They do lean into that show business side. So even though it is kind of like talking about being an eldest daughter and such, it is something that feels kind of that it somewhat after, I don't know, after a couple of listens and after hearing her explanations of being this eldest daughter and her having some common experiences with some other eldest daughters that she knows, it does feel like more, kind of more fitting into this narrative. Then the next song is the one that actually for me didn't fit the narrative at all, which is Ruin the Friendship, which is in the midst of all these songs that at least do have some references to current day. It's like some throwback to high school, where it's like some friend who died that she would have liked to have confessed some love for him or something like this, right? And I don't know, to me this one was like the one, and I do like the song. I do like how it flows. I do like the little details, for example, that Universe showed in the video that I showed before, but it didn't fit the narrative, and it was like a little bit, what the fuck is this song doing here, right? But I guess in the movie she doesn't explain anything as to why did she put this song here, but I think the mental acrobatics or whatever that I can make do make this song fit, right? It's like in the midst of all these show business things, etc., there are also some throwbacks to the past. You do start thinking of high school in the midst of writing these songs. You start thinking of your old songs and of your old days, and she's written a lot of songs about high school, etc. So it is kind of like something that I can see how it could come up in this big show business, right? It's like, okay, you're show business, you're being refuged with your love sometimes, you're being warning others or like navigating this show business world at some other times, but also sometimes there's like this break of like, oh, you have to retreat to the past, or like you retreat a little bit to the past and you daydream of it all, right? It is, I don't know, I feel like it kind of does fit the story if you do some mental acrobatics like I'm making right now, right? Then Actually Romantic, I think this song is like overblown on the internet, by the way. I don't think the song is like that controversial. I guess the lyrics written on somewhere are kind of controversial, and and like if you read them, you're like, oh, she's shady. But if you hear the song, it's like kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like not even a comeback, it's not like even a coming back to someone that has harmed her or whatever, right? It's kind of like in this story arc of like things that come up, right? It's like, how do you deal with someone hitting at you, right? It's like, how do you deal with seeing someone act in a bad way towards you or something, right? And in this case, it's like her way of dealing with that is kind of like feeling like the other person is being flattering to her, right? And that is her story and her way of sharing it. In this review, Cold Healing talks about how he thinks that Actually Romantic is actually not a good track, and how Sympathy is a Knife is much better art or whatever, art-wise. And I don't know, I thought Brat was good, and I thought that the vulnerability that she showed, etc., was good, but I didn't particularly think Sympathy of a Knife was like this kind of mind-blowing art either, right? It's like a decent song, and it explores some feelings that are complicated, etc., that also show on show business, and it was her story to tell, and it was fine. And same with Actually Romantic, right? It's like her story to tell, and it fits this kind of narrative, and it's like a thing that happened, and she tells it in this way, and it's fine, right? It's an interesting essay. If you want to read it, I leave it in the description. I agreed with this part at the end, right? Not necessarily about this particular song, but he says something like, I think Taylor Swift wanted to mimic the unfiltered confessional lyricism of Brat. I don't think she wanted to do that. Well, I think maybe she wanted to write a song a little bit in Charlie's style in this track, but without the crazy production PC the PC music production that Charlie uses, right? It's a little bit of a parody, but without going like super heavy into the parodying aspect, and just more kind of fitting into her own album. And yeah, he says basically, I don't think Taylor Swift hates Charlie XCX as much as her own song makes out. I think that I agree with that. She wanted to shoot back at Charlie, but it just wasn't as good. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that it's more of her way of telling how does she deal with one of these events, right? Instead of like being super conflicted about it or being super like that, she feels a little bit flattered, but with, I don't know, with some, it's like the way she chooses to navigate these things, because it's not a single event, right? It's probably something that happens a lot, and that this is just one example of it, is by, rather than feeling like super down on it like she has felt in the past, right? She has felt hurt by critics in the past, she has felt hurt like that. In this case, because she has like all of this support network, etc., she's able to feel like, oh, I'm being flattered by you, right? It's like a new tactic on how this show business, how life in show business is. And yeah, I thought I really agreed with these parts. Like, for example, it's interesting how Taylor relates the dynamics of her mega famous life to her social dynamics, to the social dynamics experienced by normal people, etc., right? I think because of the coke lines, things are like overblown. I feel like it's more like something it's like a little jab in this song about a more general concept than that just this specific event. But yeah, it's an interesting essay, and I liked reading this, so I leave it in the description. And yeah, the next track, is Wishlist. I thought this track was interesting, and I thought it kind of like, it defines also the, I guess, not sure if the album itself, but her attitude in this world, right? It has this is one of the songs that are like love songs for Travis, I would say. Well, obviously for Travis. And it's like she sees both extremes, right? She sees how some people want to be this complex female character, and how some other people are like so busy about money or like status, and what she wants is just like, she's achieved kind of this Zen status, or that's what she wants to communicate, right? She kind of wants to communicate that she's achieved this Zen status. She's just waiting for the ring and waiting to get married and to have babies with her man. Meanwhile, everyone else around her, right, in this show business world, etc., is trying to either get some kind of critical award or like some recognition from the industry, and some other people are just want to look hot and to wear expensive clothes in expensive vehicles, etc., right? Or like get contracts with Real Madrid, etc. Meanwhile, she's just over at that, right? I mean, easy to say that you're over it when you're like a billionaire and you've achieved all like tens of Grammys or whatever, right? But like, that is the way a showgirl is right now. That is her point of view, and that is her story, right? So I think it's interesting, right? That she shared this song, and I like the song, and I also like the vibe of how this song goes, right? The corniness, right? I like when she's corny, and this kind of saying this kind of bad bitch or things like this, right? Wanting to look, yes, I don't know, the corniness of like the Balenci shades, or like complex female character, the Oscar on the bathroom, and now she dreams about a driveway with a baseball hoop. Yeah, they want the spring break that was fucking late, and then that video taken off the internet. This kind of bars are a little bit corny, right? They are a little bit corny, but I like them. I like how they vibe. The next track is Wood, and in this track, she didn't explain anything. She just said it was a track about superstition in the movie, and everyone in the theater laughed because everyone knew that it was about Travis, right? And the lyrics are very obvious about Travis, and also like kind of sexual and such. So that's pretty funny, and it's a funny track. But and this is one of the obviously of one of those two pillars. This is one of the dedicated to the loved ones, right? To the lover, dedicated to her pillar. and talking about her pillar's own pillar also. Then the next track is about show business. It's cancelled, and this track is about navigating this kind of show business world after being cancelled and after your friends are cancelled, etc. This is also one of those kind of songs that are corny, and therefore I like them, right? Did your girl boss too close to the sun? Fun, and this kind of funny lyrics are they are funny lyrics for me, so I like them. And then the next track is Honey, back to the love songs, and this one she mentioned that it was about her liking, sorry, not her, about pet names being used badly. So for example, some people call you honey in like this kind of condescending tone, or they call you sweetheart in this condescending tone, versus when your man calls you honey or like sweetheart or whatever, right? And she talked about this in this way, and for me therefore it did fill the album, and it's like this kind of sweet little song. And then the last track, The Life of a Showgirl, is once again back to this show business world, how to navigate the show business world and how it is. So yeah, it was good. I liked it, and I liked Sabrina in it as well. I like the little note at the end. I think it's a good album closer. I like how it closes with this kind of Eras tour footage, or like sample or a clip of the concert at the end of like, yeah, say this kind of like, thank you for an unforgettable night, give it up for the band, give it up for the dancers, thank you Sabrina, tal. And I like that. And yeah, it's also like in this kind of character, Sabrina, or I think Taylor is, as she's singing, she is meeting Kitty, who is like the bigger star that she looks up to, this kind of 30s burlesque star or whatever, and Sabrina plays this kind of character. And the history of Sabrina being in this track, Taylor talks about it, and it's sweet, right? It's like she thought Sabrina was fitting for the track because she sees her as like someone who knows how to handle the industry. So it's kind of like a cool dynamic, I would say. And yeah, then that's the whole album. That's the narrative. That's a little bit of the lyric analysis, if you can call it that. And what do I like? To sum up the album, I like it. I did some mental gymnastics to be able to like it more, but I did arrive to a point where I think I like it more, and I think it's solid. And I like the contrast that it has in the lyrics, the corniness of the lyrics, the throwback a little bit to a more fun way of like writing, etc. And well, that's not the throwback part. The fun thing is not that fun, because she's been funny in like songs like Karma, for example. She's also been like corny as fuck in those type of songs. But I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit more like this synthetic style rather than this convoluted style from TTPD, which was, in my opinion, a little bit like too whoa. And yeah, I think it's good to be a little bit back to that, and to have an album that's like short, sweet, that tells a coherent story, and I like that. And that it's more poppy, I would say. So yeah, thank you for watching this review. I've made more videos that are music reviews. I will probably leave the playlist around here somewhere. So yeah, thank you for watching if you reached the end of the review, and goodbye.